going on, man? My name is Arian Foster, and you are now plugged in with Jay.
Yo, what's good? It's your homeboy T-Pain. Right now, at this very exact moment, you plugged in with Jay.
Plugged in with Jay right now. This is Jay O'Nash.
Turn up.
My boy Jay Perry.
You're listening to my boy Jay the Plug.
My boy Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy Jay the Plug.
You're listening to my boy Jay the Plug.
Jay the Plug.
You got many winners from many movies. You're listening to my boy Jay the Plug.
Get plugged up, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to an episode of Plugged In with Jay. I am here with a gentleman that needs no introduction, Mr. Bobby Feeno, aka Arian Foster. What's happening, man?
I'm chilling, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, partner. Doing good, man. I just saw you got your hair did, man. It looks good.
Yeah, try to switch it up a little bit, man. Been growing it out for a minute.
I got you. Yeah, I noticed that, man. I noticed it. I heard in one of your episodes that it's kind of with I think it was D-Hop that y'all were talking about. It's like a spiritual thing, like growing your hair out like that. It's kind of spiritual.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's journey is different. Mine wasn't as spiritual as his, but I like the look.
I got you. Yeah, it looks dope, man. It looks good.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, man. So Bobby Feeno, I've done some research and I've been paying attention to you for a while. So I kind of know most of the answers to these questions, but a lot of the cats that I fuck with were kind of inquisitive on these things as well. So where did the name Bobby Feeno come from?
There's no like special story or whatever, but I think I've been making music since I was 12 years old, and so I've always hated my name. My name's horrible. I tell my mother that all the time. I don't like my first or my last name. So and it never like sounded like artistic to me. Like, so it never sounded like something that I don't know, like was a moniker for me. So releasing music, I didn't want to release it under Arian Foster. It sounded stupid to me, and so I just needed like a stage name. And so Bobby McFerrin is one of my favorite artists of all time. So I just jacked Bobby. I like Bobby, and then I couldn't even tell you where Fino came from. It just felt good saying it. I don't even know if it means anything. Like, I have no clue.
Yeah. All right. When I hear it, I think of like fiending for something. Like. I thought maybe it was like fiending for music or something like that. That's kind of what I got from when I first heard it.
I wish it was that deep. It ain't that deep.
But all right, man. Who are your artistic influences? Because I know you're a very artistic individual, and it doesn't just stem to music or anything. I know you've got a lot of artistic love and a lot of appreciation for art and stuff. So who are your influences?
Right. I mean, everything and everywhere, man. But like artistically, I think I grew up on like the 60s and 70s music. My mother and father used to spin like a lot of vinyls. And so I grew up on like Earth, Wind and Fire. I grew up on Parliament Function. I grew up on, like all of that stuff. I think that's the greatest era of music. Like 60s and 70s are the greatest era of music. Including mine, like that era to me is just unmatched. And like my mother's side she was from country. She was like grew up on a ranch, and she used to spin like I love Patsy Cline. I say that all the time in interviews, but like I really love Patsy Cline. And my mom used to spin Patsy Cline vinyls, and I used to love that shit. And I still to this day I stream Patsy Cline. I'm probably her biggest fan. So I really draw from anything, and of course my era like is Pac, right? Pac is my favorite rapper or artist of all time.
Sure.
Hove, Kanye. I think Kanye has the best catalog of any artist, rap anyway. And so like I just draw from anything and anyone that inspires me.
Bet, man. Yeah, I noticed that you mentioned Hove in there. You've got a track called God. It's one of my favorites to listen to when I'm hitting the gym, man. And you call him out.
Nah, I ain't calling him out. It's the interesting part is my politics has changed since I wrote that anyway. So the line goes, coming
for your face.
Yeah, not really coming for his place. Coming for his place. First one to a Billy. That's a real nigga race. My politics have changed since then. I'm not really a capitalist anymore.
Gotcha.
But it was still a dope line.
Yeah, it was. It's dope, man.
And he beat me anyway. So
now, what was it like growing up as Arian Foster? I've heard some stories, man. I heard that you loved toast at one point. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. I was a bit of a wild card, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of growing up in the environment I grew up in. It was, we were poor growing up. I was inquisitive and I was a rebel, and so I kind of just did what I wanted to do. And so one time, that's a funny story my family always tells. But one time I was going to school, and like this teacher like consistently wouldn't let us go. It was like right before lunch, and like niggas be hungry before lunch, and there was this like this convenient thing that they had, like they used to sell like these burritos like right before lunch.
Yeah.
And so like he wouldn't let us bring any food in class because it was like a 2-hour block. And I was like, yo, this dude is tripping. And so one day I brought a toaster to class and some bread and some jelly and some butter. And so like halfway through the class, I just started making toast, and he was like,
What?
is that a toaster? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, you don't let us eat. So I brought a toast. He was like, just get out, go to the principal's office. And I was like, after I finished my toast though.
Yeah, right. You got that toast, man.
Yeah. My mom was hot. She's like, what are you doing? I was like, nigga he didn't let us eat. So I ate.
Now you've had some pretty interesting happenings on social media. One that stands out to me pretty heavy among the rest is whenever you said you could take out a wolf, man.
Yeah, that shit was trending worldwide and shit. That shit was crazy.
Why do people get so serious?
Yeah, it was. I don't know why. Of all the shit that I've said, like that was the one that like that shit got me on Joe Rogan. That shit's crazy. I don't know. Twitter's my favorite social media app. Like I hate Instagram. I don't even have a Facebook. I'm not on anything else. Snap, I'm on nothing. Twitter's my favorite because it's like a battle of ideas, and so it's like there's not a lot of facade. I mean, there's always facade, but there's not a lot of red tape into people's thoughts, and like you get to just interact with people's thoughts daily in real time, and I just love that aspect of things. So I just be tweeting my thoughts out. And one day we were talking, I forgot what we were talking about. Like I was just chopping it up with some of my followers. We were talking about camping. I think we were talking about camping and how like I would love to go camping, but I would never like camp in like a real like where I'm out there like survivalist type shit because like I'm afraid of nature. Cause like, and I was like, I don't fuck with bears. I don't fuck with nature at all. Like snakes are like one of my biggest fears. And then just a tweet later, I was like, I probably get a wolf one-on-one though. And like people took so much issue with that, and they was like, you can't beat a wolf. I'm like, I could get a wolf. I feel like I could get a wolf. And like part of me was joking, but part of me was like, why are they so passionate about wolves? I didn't know why everybody was so passionate about wolves.
Right.
And like, and so I started like joking back, like, yo, wolves don't have thumbs, like just clowning and shit. And like people just started going off. Like some people was like, yo, you can't get us, like you can't get a wolf. And it just took off. And I was like, I didn't have nothing to do that day. So I was like, it was like 2-3 hours. I was just talking about wolves. And like it got so big to where I think it's like the National Wolf like Institute or whatever the fuck, like whoever, like whatever that is, like they put out a statement that says like it's not safe to like engage with wolves, and we don't think that. Like I'm like, bro, what is going on? It was just funny as hell. And all of a sudden I got a text from a random LA number. No, it was my man's Neil Brennan. He's a comedian, and he's like, yo, are you trying to go on Joe Rogan? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? He's like, he's gonna hit you. And then Joe hit my line, and he was like, yo, I'd love to have you and talk about this wolf shit. And I was like, okay, bet.
That's what's up, man. Yeah,
weird, man.
Yeah, Neil, he started the Chappelle Show with Dave, didn't he?
Yeah, he's fucking brilliant comedian, man. And this is such a good dude. I love him.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. I love it. His Netflix special is pretty good, man. I love stand-up comedy.
Oh, brilliant. Three Mics is one of the most brilliant stand-up specials.
Oh, yeah.
He'll never get the credit for it, but like that's one of the most brilliant stand-up specials I've seen.
I agree. It's phenomenal, man. Anybody out there, you need something to watch, Netflix, Neil Brennan, 3 Mics. It's dope. It's up there. So are there any other animals that you were about to like, any other animals you think you could take out, man? I think you could take a wolf, honestly. I think I could take a wolf for everybody out there.
It depends on the wolf, right? Because they're like, it's a spectrum. Like there's wolves who are really like, borderline foxes, right? And then there's wolves that are like 220 pounds. And motherfuckers, like, I don't think so, man. I don't know. And so it's like, they wanted to put me up against the baddest wolf they've ever seen in my life. I'm like, bro, like, why would you do that? I'm not the baddest human of all time. Like, why would you put me up against the baddest wolf? Like, give me like your run of the mill average wolf. Like, I feel like, yeah, I can get him, man. But I'm not out here trying to fight wolves. I'm not hunting wolves. I'm not gonna be around the motherfuckers. I'm not gonna be. That was the whole point of the conversation. Was like, I'm not gonna
It's
be there.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Definitely gonna be there without no gun or something.
No shit. Yeah, what's funny is like social media, these motherfuckers that have you going up against that dude from Altered Beast. You remember that game?
Yeah, like really fighting a Beowulf all of a sudden. Like,
yeah, Beowulf. That's what I was thinking of, man.
Yeah.
So there's something I actually wanted to get your opinion on, and because one thing that I love about when I was watching or listening to your podcast and watching on YouTube and stuff like that, like you're very intellectual. You're very well spoken. You have in my opinion, a pretty brilliant mind. And my wife says the same thing, and she doesn't say good shit about anybody really. She's just kind of like, she's standoffish, and then all of a sudden something snaps, she's cool. But I've noticed that the way the world is going is a way that like these kids are growing up so entitled. What are your thoughts on how the country, it just, if you just want to go with the US, like how it just seems like everybody seems to be so damn entitled, man. Like, where do you think that'll ever change? Do you think anything that'll ever go back to the way it used to be? Like whenever you used to be able to whoop a kid, like spank a kid's ass if he's doing something wrong or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's not going back to that.
I don't think so.
And honestly, I think it's for the better, and this is why. Like I grew up, like with whoopings, right? Like I used to get my ass beat, and I turned out fine. But
sure,
it's not a very high percentage that happens. And what you do is you introduce violence as a form of retribution, and that becomes how you deal with problems, right? And so I think right now we're in this like transition period where the internet is interwoven in all of our lives. You can't get around it. You need the internet to live, from your fucking bank to your entertainments or whatever. You need the internet to live. And so we're in this transition period where a lot of older generations are like, man, the way it was to this new generation, where it's like, this is the future. And the future is very progressive. The future is like when you look at like the transgender issue or something like that, right? It's very progressive. And people are like, yo, there's one gender, whoop whoop. But it's like, yo, all this is, it's an accumulation of people who didn't have tribes in their area that they lived in. And so the internet connected people in a way that they found kinship, right? And so, oh, I feel like that too. Oh, I feel like that too. Whereas before they were just in their cities, there was in their neighborhoods, and a lot of people weren't around them that looked like them or acted like them or felt like them. And so they didn't fit in, but they had to fit in for the social fabric, right? So like if you look at the 50s, like housewives was like, that's what you do. Like you that women looked forward to that, right? And nowadays it's like there's so many opportunities, and they see it more, and they see it, and so they're less inclined to do what society feels like they should do, and they're more inclined to do what they feel like they want to do. And then they find other women or other people who are who have done that and exercise that option, and they resonate with that more. And so that's all this is a public display of individualism. But I think it's in a healthy way. I think the drawback is people get stuck in this conservative mindset, not necessarily politically conservative, just like societally conservative. They get stuck in this mindset like this is how it's supposed to be, right? Sure. But when you look at like the actual data behind it, right? Like murders are down, violent crime is down, like a lot of things are trending down. The thing that's trending up is like depression, anxiety, suicide rates. That stuff's trending up. But I think that's a direct correlation to us not having infrastructure to deal with what the internet brings, right? Sure. So there should be fucking a curriculum and social media for these kids. Like they have to understand the pitfalls, the positives to it, how to navigate the stuff, and I mean to another point to that is like mental health is like a huge like trend now, right? And this is one of the better trends, because growing up a lot of the times it was like, yo, just suck that shit up, you'll be all right, like you'll be straight. But it's like, nah, that shit causes trauma, like, and it's cyclical. And so like you pass that shit on to your kids, and they'll pass that shit to their arm, and that's what it's supposed to be, right? And so this this is the first time I've seen people actually been able to like open up about how they're feeling. And a lot of people feel a certain way about that because I don't feel like they have dealt with their issues, right? So
Right.
I mean, I've recently went through some trauma that if I wasn't in this era, I would have probably just tucked all that shit in and it would have ate at me. But like,
Yeah.
because mental health is so uh prevalent now and people are bringing awareness to it. I was able to seek therapy. I would have never. I used to think bad about therapists. I mean, you soft if you go to
Yeah.
therapists, right? Like that's what I
Right.
used to think because that's what I grew up around. Like you're not.
Right.
That's just that masculine. Like oh, you got to
Stigma.
suck that shit up, be tough. But no, fuck that, dog. Like this shit is hard. Like life is hard. Like I don't know how to navigate these social situations. Like I recently went through a breakup where it's like I didn't know how to navigate that shit. Like I had never been like cheated on before. I didn't know how to navigate this shit. And so I found like a circle of females that I've never really talked with females before, like in that level, like where
Yeah.
they're sitting here expressing their feelings and telling me what they went through, and I'm telling them what I went through, and it's like this shit is comforting. It's comforting. They give you tools to navigate the situation, and so it's like I think the drawback is that conservative, like this is how it's supposed to be, but it's like if you're open, like there are people that care, there are people that are empathetic to your situation. I think it's just a better all around. Like it's gonna be better. If we're still here, like 100 years from now, it's gonna be like a more healthy society.
Right. No, that's a great way to look at it, man. I never, I always hear all these old dudes that I, grew up around, and they were the same way. It was that stigma where you had to just be tough and, rub some dirt on it and walk it off. But yeah, I mean, I've been in therapy before as well, and with my wife and stuff, we've gone to counseling and everything, and it's done nothing but work wonders for us. I don't think there's any issue with anybody being able to express their feelings. I don't have any issues with any of that. I think it's a great way that the world is turning. The only thing that I get frustrated with is like so many people that I meet, and I'm in Atlanta, and I was in Austin, Texas for a little while before. So a lot of these guys that I meet, they don't want to put in work to keep moving. That's kind of that's where I was kind of headed with it, but you put a pretty damn good spin on it. But no, man, no. Just I pose the question a certain way, you perfectly, bro. So that's a great way to think about it, man. Because I mean, as you start getting older and people start changing for the better, they start realizing that mental health is definitely a thing that needs to be taken care of and looked at. And yeah, anybody out there that needs anything like that, you can take my number down. Call me. I think that's an excellent answer, man.
And I think the bigger point to that is like from personal experience, what it did for me was it allowed me, like me addressing my issues, it allowed me to look at other people's issues with more empathy. And so so I'm not judging people. Like if like, oh man, I had a rough day. Like I actually like tell me about it. Like what happened? Like I can empathize with this situation. And granted, there's a fine line. Like some people take advantage of the fact that that's a trendy thing, and they'll, they try to manipulate situations and stuff like that. But to me, you're always going to have people that try to get over. But for the most part, it's like it's taught me how to listen to people without the intent of talking. It taught me how to be empathetic towards people, like, and it's just improved the quality of my relationships across the board in my life. And so, like, I'm here for
it. Yeah. So something that I was interested in hearing your explanation. You're an atheist.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm all for anybody's belief system. They can do whatever they want as long as it's not hurting anybody. I'm totally fine with whatever. Now, I was raised in a very religious household growing up. Now, what is your, I'm curious, what is your definition of an atheist? Like, I know that there's, you got the textbook definition and everything like that, but something I've realized about you that I really, really fuck with is that being an atheist doesn't mean that you have to go after people who believe in God and be like, what, you fucking idiot? What are you talking about? You believe in what, a guy in the clouds? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But something that I really like about the way that you represent yourself as an atheist is that you don't do that.
Right.
So what is it to you that an atheist, like, what is your definition of an atheist?
Right. I mean, part of our culture is like having language that evolves, right? And so I think when people think of atheists, they think, oh, you're saying there's no God. They're saying, you know there's no God. And like, no, that's not what it is. It's just a position on a claim, right? So if I was to tell you, one of the more brilliant explanations I've heard of this was a guy by the name of Matt Dillahunty, and he goes, He goes, okay, if I was to tell you I have a jar of gumballs, right? He says, okay, now either this gumball, the amount of this gumballs is either odd or even, right? There's no other possibility. It's either odd or it's even, right? If I
Mhm.
was to tell you that this jar of gumballs, it's even, your position on that should be, I don't know. I don't believe that it's even.
Yeah, right.
I don't know enough to know if it's odd or if it's even. And so it's a position on a claim. And so when you say that there's a God, I'm saying I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's a God. I'm not saying that there isn't. I just don't believe that there is, right? It's just a position on a claim. So that's what atheism is. It's just a reaction to a claim. Um, and you can get into the etymology of it, right? The definition of the words and and how they're broke down. So like you can, like, and people are like, oh well, you're an agnostic. Well, no, agnosticism is just a claim to knowledge, just like to know something, right? And so you can be an atheist, an agnostic atheist, right?
Sure.
That's a category that you can fit under. So like I don't like to get into all of that when I'm talking to people like on a day-to-day basis, because it just
Sure.
it just muddy the waters, right? And so if people, like, when they call me atheist, I'll say sure, like whatever you want to label me as. If you want to label me agnostic, that's cool with me, bro. I just don't want to. I just want to beef with you about this shit. I really don't care. I don't care about it that much.
Right.
But there was a point where I did, right, and the reason why I did, right, which is why I understand where there are really staunch atheists who are like actively taking a role and like trying to fuck up people's worldview. I was there. I wasn't always at where I'm at now. I was there, and it's because you feel cheated, you feel hoodwinked. Our entire lives were told this thing, and then in our eyes, we were lied to, right? And so we feel like it's that you're angry, and so you wanna spread the word, and you wanna like wake other people up or whatever.
Sure.
I've changed my position on that, where it's like I think that um having a belief system in a metaphysical sense is something that is a coping mechanism for our life. We don't, nobody knows for sure, right? Everybody can say, oh, it's etched on your heart, or even the atheist can say, I know for a fact, or whatever the case may be. Nobody knows. We're all alive, and the only time you're gonna know is if you're dead, right?
Right.
And
Right.
ain't nobody dead right now that's talking. So nobody knows. So we're all just guessing to the best of our abilities. And so if believing in something that helps you get through your day-to-day life, and you have congregation every week with your community, and you do good things, there's nothing wrong with that, Miles. Do your thing. The only issue I take with religious folks nowadays is if you're trying to legislatively implement your belief system into our lives. Then I can't, because, and it's not even on some like, I don't want your religion in my life. It's like you can't logically defend it, right? So
Right.
let's take abortion for an example, right? It's a deep topic, right? uh if your reasoning for abortion is uh because God said this, right? Well, you're opening up Pandora's box, because you can't prove that God said anything, right? You have
Right.
your evidence that you believe in, but it wouldn't stand a test in any court or in any kind of rational fashion, right?
Hmm.
And any religious person, any rational religious person will concede that, like, no, there's I can't prove to you that God said this, right? But if
Right.
that's the case, right, there's many different, there's thousands of different religions, right? And and if your justification is your God, right, well then, if I have to accept your position because of your justification, then you have to accept so and so's position for their justification for their God. And then you'll have conflicting ideologies. And how do we remedy that situation if there's no concrete way to figure out what is right and what is wrong, or what is true and what is not true? So
Right.
it's just not rational. It's not even that like I take offense to it or anything. It's just not rational. Like we'll have to forever fight about it, because we can't agree. There's no way we can agree. There's no hard line. And so, and to me, in order to have a cohesive society, you have to have secular legislation, or
Yeah.
as close to it as you can. And so as long as people aren't trying to legislate their belief systems, I'm believe whatever you want, dog.
Yeah. 100%. I completely agree. As long as you respect everybody's opinions and everybody, I mean, that's one thing that's excellent about this life, is that you can believe what you want, do what you want, as long as it's not harming other people. and everybody should be able to just get along with that. It's crazy how religion has just changed so many things and killed so many people when you think about it. And I was listening to the episode, and the reason why I'm chiming on this on it is because you were talking to D Hop, and I believe there was somebody else, and I think like what do you call him, No Swag or something?
No Swag, that's my
Yeah.
brother, man. Yeah.
Is it so and y'all were talking about how I think one of the arguments that was posed was whenever a kid quote unquote passes away and comes back and he has this understanding of like he sees somebody and he can describe them to a T. My argument with that is somebody asked me that same thing, and I was like, well, as I grew up, I didn't get to see my grandfather. He passed away when I was just a little baby, so I can't remember anything about him. However, I've seen so many pictures and descriptions and everything like that. Sometimes as you get into a state like whenever you're passing or something, you could have a dream and you're dreaming about this person and you've seen a picture, and then you wake up and you describe that you know basically what happened in a dream. That's my understanding of it, like how that could possibly happen. Right. Because and again, I don't know, just like you said, I have no clue what anybody experiences when they pass. I haven't died, thank God. And I say that thank God because that's just something we've said since we were kids. And it's funny, like my mom, and I love my mother with all my heart, but she was the type of person who would basically force feed religion onto you when you were a kid. Right. And that turned me to where I was like, okay, I've got to get some questions answered if I'm going to believe in somebody I've never seen, or if I need to believe, it just kind of hit me when I was like a teenager. Before I followed blindly, and because that's just kind of what I knew. Mm-hmm. But I have no idea what's out there. And so what's funny is I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, and she's the same way as me, but she's Greek. So she was raised differently. My family was Catholic, hers was Greek Orthodox, and they're pretty similar. And she was like, so you might say that you're atheist-ish. That's pretty good. But you try to follow something blindly. It's kind of tough if you actually have some kind of imagination. Like I've noticed, like most people that are artistic, they think that way, the way that you do. You don't just think one. I mean, it's like a tree. Whenever you think, you've got a branch of a thought over here and a branch over here, and it just goes wild into the fact to where you start asking good questions and nobody can give you an answer. So there's something to be said about the Bible. It teaches you to be a good person, do good things. But when somebody says that they, what's the difference in Catholicism and Mormonism in that case then? Because you had a guy who stated that he found, what are they like, stones or something in that, and he put it in a hat, right? Tablets, and he put it in a hat, and he got the Book of Mormon from that. Just like somebody says that God spoke to them and they typed up the Bible. Mm-hmm. It's so confusing to me, the fact that nobody can give me a straight answer, and I can't wrap my mind around it to where I'm just like, I need something. I need proof. I need something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's what it boils down to is, how, like, I mean, they say it, right? Like with any rational Christian or rational Muslim, they'll say like it comes down to like faith. Mm-hmm. It comes down to like, and to me, that's
not always enough. The answer.
Like, yeah, it's not enough to me.
No.
And people and other people say like, look at all the stuff around you, the coincidences that happen and yada yada yada. And to me, that can be explained away by like simple like probability and happenstance. Like a lot of this shit just happens. And actually that kind of nourished my worldview, right? And like it takes away a lot of the anger that comes from like other people doing stuff. Like why would you do that? And I'm like, shit happens. Like things happen. Like I'm not like, my emotions can't be, I mean, to as best of the ability, but emotions can't be tied to other actions outside of myself, because I can't control any of that. Mm-hmm. And so all I can do is control my little world and just stay in my little lane and try to do good and be good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's all you can do is just be a good person. That's one thing I can say that's good about the Bible is some of the stories in there teach you how to be a good person. However, some of the stories
Some of them.
some of the stories teach you to rape and pillage like a pirate. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
you get into the Old Testament, man, that's like murder porn. It's
weirdo shit in there. God, even God, like the Old Testament God, that nigga is a weirdo, bro. That
Oh,
nigga weird as hell, dog.
spiteful and just angry.
He's so
guy.
petty. He's so petty. This is so petty for no reason. Like you created the entire universe, dog. Why you so petty, man?
For real, man. You've got everything in your hand. They made a song
crazy.
about it. Why are you so
like? I mean, if you look like the Ten Commandments, right? Like Ten Commandments, like
Right.
thou shalt not have any gods before me. For I'm a jealous God. Like you're jealous. You're like I've gotten over jealousy in my relationships. Like how can you not get over jealousy, fam? Like that is such a somebody said it's like such a petty human emotion. Like why do you suffer from that? That's we going through that. Like you should be above that, dog.
For real, man. I never thought about that, bro. The most I've created is a hot pocket, and you created the whole world universe, and you're jealous. Okay.
That's wild. I know you're not talking to any of the gods over there.
Yeah,
I know you better not be talking to any of the gods.
Yeah.
Better not be. Let me see your phone.
Yeah, who's texting us? Man. So one of my favorite movies ever made is Draft Day. I watch it constantly. For real, man. I know it's a lot of the same thing. They're like, dude, why is it seriously? That's in like your top 10? It is because I love football. I love the NFL and all that. And I know there's you have some feelings about the NFL.
I love what you love, man. Love what you love.
Yeah. And man, I gotta tell you, man, my hat is figuratively off to your performance, man. Like you and Terry Crews tore it up. You played Ray Jennings.
Ray Jennings.
How was that? Did you have a blast doing that, or?
It was such a good experience, man. I loved it, man. Terry Crews, like that's my good boy, man. Like that's my dog. He always reached out, very, very cool. Kind of taught me how to act, right? Like, cause I was like, I've been on like sets before. Like I think I was on a couple shows before. But that was like my first like motion picture where I was like acting and I was like, yo, a little nervous and stuff like that. I remember when I was like nervous before one of the scenes and he was like, hey, fuck up. Just fuck up. And I'm like, what? It's like, fuck up one of your lines. He's like, I do it all the time. He said, just fuck it up, get the nerves out, just fuck it up. And I'm like, it was cool. So it kind of walked me through the ropes, and it was just a good experience. And Ivan Reitman, the director, he was all showing love. He was like, he was one of the reasons why I wanted to like pursue acting, because he pulled my manager to the side and he was like, yo, like the kid can act. He's like, make sure he pursues this because he can do this. I just don't have the energy or the patience to go through like auditions and casting calls. Like I don't want to do that shit. But I think I was really good at it. And man, I was mad at myself because like I can cry on cue. Like I know how to cry on cue.
For real.
And so and so that scene when I got drafted, I just didn't think about doing it. But that would have been fucking powerful to do it. I probably got more roles off of it.
Yeah.
I didn't think about doing it. I was just like, I was like in the moment you like Terry Crews is there, the cameras is going. Like I just did, because they didn't ask me. They didn't ask me like, yo, can you cry? Like they didn't ask me anything. Like so, I could have cried on cue. That'd have been amazing.
Bro, yeah, man. That'd have been like, damn, Arian Foster about to get himself an Oscar role.
Yeah, it should have been fire, bro. I just didn't think about that shit.
What's your process to make yourself cry on cue? Do you just have control over yourself to where you can make your dogs work?
So what I do, I mean, you can do it physically, right? Just keeping your eyes open, but you can do it that in conjunction with it's acting is it's empathy. Acting is empathy. It's like you could put yourself in an emotional state that you have felt before, and you can take yourself there mentally, which is actually very powerful. And so I take myself to some place where I felt like I had to get this out, and it comes like I could do it, but I should have done it. It's all good.
Man, you have no idea how tempted I am to be like, dude, show it. Show me.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do it right now.
Yeah, I'll be like in the description, made Arian Foster cry.
Yeah. That'll be the clip of the show.
Yeah. But speaking of that, man, you had some decent success there. One of my favorite stories that I've heard of yours is how you came up and how you basically willed yourself into being in the NFL. The way that you talked about it was so simple. like I know it was hard. I know it was a hard road, but the way that you set it up as when you were a kid, where you wrote everything down. Can you take us through that? If somebody, like, for anybody out there that hasn't heard this, when I first heard this, this is how I decided I wanted to start doing like a show to where I could interview football players, rap artists. I mean, just people who I really looked up to, and I took it these kind of steps. So would you mind elaborating on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime we set goals, lofty goals, it seems so far fetched at first, right? And they are, but they're far fetched is because um, we don't compartmentalize how people get there. A lot of times, I forget who said it, but somebody said, when you see like successful people, right, in a lane that you view as successful, you're looking at a finished product, right? Like you don't see all the steps that it took to get there, and so and now everything's so boom, 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 boom. All you see is successful people, Instagram models, athletes, rappers, one hit wonders, but you don't see like the steps it took to get there. You know, and granted, there are some people like every now and then the universe will throw somebody a bone and they get lucky and they hit the lottery or just some lucky shit happens, right? Luck is a part of life.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you don't want to put your eggs in that basket. And
Right.
so my father told me he gave me this gym when I was younger. And he said, son, what are your goals? I said, I want to make it to the NFL. He said, okay, how you gonna get there? I was like, I gotta play ball. I was like, okay, how do you get good at ball? And so he broke it down. He told me, write your goals down. I want to make it to the NFL. And this was when I was in high school. He's like, I want to make it to the NFL. I was like, how do you get to the NFL? I was like, well, you got to play college, right? I was like, okay, well, in order to get to college, what do you got to do? You got to get a scholarship. Okay, we got to get a scholarship. How do we get a scholarship? We got to ball out in high school. How do we ball out in high school? Well, this is how we ball out in high school. You have to be the starter. At the time, I wasn't a starter. I was like, how do you be a starter? You got to beat that guy. Okay, what does that guy do better than me? Why is he playing ahead of me? Okay, he's faster. He does this. He does this. He does that. Okay, how do I change that dynamic? How do I become faster than him, or how do I get as close to fast as him, or how do I improve my game to a point where it's like, or how do I get my hands better, right? And so I pinpointed all the things that I needed to work on, and I went to work on them, right? Uh, how do we get faster? Well, like when I don't hear about the mechanics, but my knees needed to get higher, right? I needed to increase my stride. I needed to increase my stamina. How do we do that? I had to run hills. Okay, let's run hills 4 days a week, right? I need to get a little stronger. Well, how do we get stronger? Let's lift 4 days a week, right? And when you break it down like like that, you start understanding that in order to get there, they're just a whole bunch of simple tasks, right? It's waking up early in the morning and running. It's eating the correct meals. It's just doing. And once you break it down like that, sooner or later you start to see the results of what's happening, and that's encouraging to continue to put goals up on there. And so when you he said write your goals down and put it up somewhere you can see it every single day. Put it up, and this is the most important part. Is like put it up somewhere where you can see it every single day. Whether it's a bathroom mirror or your door before you leave or whatever. He said one or two things is gonna happen. He said you either you're gonna start hitting some of those goals and you're gonna be where you think you can or where you want to be, or you're gonna tear it down because you can get tired of looking at it. You can get sick of looking at what you thought you could be.
Right.
And true to form, I've seen both things. The NFL shit was real. I did that shit in high school. I did that shit in college. I wrote my goals down, what I need to do, and I hit those. And there's other goals in my life that I've written down, and after a while, I started slacking on the discipline and didn't get it done, and I ended up taking that shit down because I got sick of looking at it.
Yeah, man. It's one of them is your podcast you stopped doing, man. I was like,
yeah, definitely. They definitely stopped doing the podcast.
yeah. Just a little bit too hectic, a little bit too much, huh?
Well, it's like, and I kind of hit on it early, right? Like, so it's like everybody has podcasts now, right? And so like I hit on it kind of early, where it's like I could have really made a good living off of a podcast, but it got to the point for me where it was just it was a job, it was a work, and I was always and I'm already financially secure, and I if it's when the love for it goes away, and I'm just doing it because I have to, that I got to check out, because I don't feel like you should give yourself to anything that doesn't fulfill you, if if that's not your goal. And my goal right now as a human being is not to create capital. It's not to get money. It's strictly to massage my wants, my desires, my needs, and who I am, and grow and learn and love better as a human being. And so a podcast stopped doing that to me because although I love the conversations, I got a lot of the conversations. I think people got a lot of the conversations,
Yeah.
but I think towards the end of it, it just became like this. I'm doing this for money, like because there was a point where like we were getting like 100,000 listeners an episode, like it was really, really popping.
Yeah.
But I felt that pressure. I feel like now who do I got to get on the podcast now? Now I'm tapping my black book. I'm tapping everybody on my phone like, yo, you want to get on my podcast? And it just became really like I ain't into this no more.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it became more of a job. It first started off like it was something pretty fun, something you were just getting into and having a good time, being able to talk to some friends and some interesting people, and then it turned into it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get that, man. That's what I'm trying to hit 100,000 listeners, man. So that's why I got my man Arian Foster on the show, bro.
I wish you well, my brother. I hope you get it, brother.
I appreciate you. But the one thing that I did, I started this whenever I was furloughed from work because of all the COVID stuff going on. My wife told me, because I've always been a big fan of fantasy football, and she was like, "Why don't you start a fantasy football podcast?" I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." So started that. I met Marcus Allen, and talked to him about doing like, a little plug or whatever. And he's like, "Well, do you want to interview me?" Yeah. I looked around the room, my mouth was just open. People were looking at me like I saw a ghost. And I was like, yeah, had him on. It was great. And whenever we stopped, he told me I should definitely keep going after it. And I fell in love with the conversation and being able to get to know this individual who I just, my dad's been a Raiders fan since I can remember. And when I told him about it, he was just, oh my God. And he'd give me all these questions he wanted me to ask him and stuff. And it was just a really awesome experience. So, I mean, I owe a lot to him for that. But so far it doesn't feel like a job. Doesn't feel like a job yet, man. I hope it doesn't ever turn into that, man.
That's good, man. That's good.
Now, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You got to work with him on that movie. How was it? Did you get to meet him, get to know him a little bit?
Yeah. We chopped it, man. He's real cool people. Exchange numbers and everything. He he was one of the ones like because like when you acting, it feels funny because it's like it's very unauthentic because you're literally acting, right? You're acting,
right.
And so one of the times we was doing this scene and like it was, I don't even know if it's in the movie. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but we were doing the scene. We were with a whole bunch of teammates and we were like acting and stuff. And because like people that aren't actors, like the extras in the background, like they're not like seasoned actors all the time, right? And so like people like kind of scoffing and stuff. And he was like, he like stopped, like, "Hey, yo, this is acting." He's like, "This is what this is." And I was like, he just kind of took control of the room, and I was like, that's really dope. Because that was his profession, what he did for a living. Because I felt it too. I was like, "This is fucking silly, dog. Like I'm out here in this fucking Browns uniform. This is silly." But he was like, "Yo, this is acting. Like this is what it is." And I was like, that's really powerful for me anyway. But yeah, we was chopped it. I mean, we weren't best friends or whatever, but like it was just cool seeing his career take off after that, and knowing that we shared the same space and time. At one point, it was that was enough for me. So it was horrible, hearing his loss. Just too young, man. It's just crazy, and he was just like on the brink. Like he was probably one of the bigger actors in the world, actually. And so, it was really sad to see him go.
When I heard that news, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know anything about. Like he supposedly he just kept it to himself, really, which I mean, hats off to him, because most people would be throwing that stuff out to get the sympathy card and all that stuff. But no, it just shows to his professionalism, and he's incredible. He's way too soon. So you were one of the most electrifying running backs in the game. Like it was just a pleasure to get to watch you play, man. I mean, do you ever get that? Like, do you ever miss playing?
No. I don't, man. I think you miss like the camaraderie with the fellas, right? I got a buddy that's in town right now. He's vaccinated. That came to visit, and I played college ball with him, and like so you build lifelong friendships, and of course like that kind of stuff you miss.
Sure.
But just the day-to-day grind, I don't miss that. Actually playing, I loved it growing up, but it's like the consequences from it. It's like I'm in a car wreck every Sunday, like multiple car wrecks every Sunday, and it's like the toll it took on my body. I woke up this morning, my back is killing me, dog. It's like, I don't miss that shit at all, man, because I know what it comes with. But I respect the game, and I love the game for what it did for myself and my family, always. But yeah, it's just something that's kind of on the wayside. Like I be forgetting I played, honestly, dog, because I don't really watch football anymore. And so, and like if you look at my house, you'd be like, you like an NFL athlete used to live here. Like I don't have none of my accolades, like no trophies, no jerseys, like all that shit is in my mom's house. Like she wanted all that shit. Like I think I have a she like I want an SP for something like early on in my career. Like I was like she wanted that shit. Like I don't have nothing in my house that says I play ball. Like I'm just not into it. I never looked at it as part of my identity.
Sure.
And so it's just not something that like I think about. Like I forget I played, dog. Like people like tweet me like highlights sometime, and I'm like, damn, I forgot about that shit. Because like it's just a fourth. It's an afterthought. I mean, it's like I just don't think about it.
Yeah. I get that, man. Yeah, I'm sure it's. You had what, 14 surgeries?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't imagine. I'm sure, just like most things, like whenever you do it, you have a love for it whenever you're younger, and then as you get older, like I almost played ball in Sicily, basketball. And man, I went to college to play, and the coach that I had, and it's not necessarily his fault because I'm my own person and I can handle things a certain way. I can choose to either let it make me stop, or I can push through it. I chose to use that as an excuse to get away instead of just admitting the fact that it just wasn't fun for me anymore.
Right.
It just wasn't fun anymore, man. So I understand to an extent, never made money on it or anything, but yeah, you can definitely use that as a blessing. And yeah, it's good that you're doing what you're doing now. You don't have to worry about waking up with no issues. I did pro wrestling for 10 years. I had to step away from that because, man, I had a body slam done on me. My lower back hit a, like a warped board. Lower back hit it and I was like, oh, didn't really mess with me at the time because I was, adrenaline was flowing, and then the next morning I get up and I thought I got hit by a train, like, and it just wasn't. I missed that though. I do miss it. I don't really watch it a whole lot though, but I do miss that. Now, you've been pretty vocal on your feelings toward fantasy football before. And I'm one of the guys who cannot stand an individual who will talk shit to a football player about their fantasy accolades or anything. I can't stand that. I hate football play. A professional athlete owes us nothing. For anybody who's watching this, I want you know my stance on this. I've said it since day one. They owe us nothing. So when you have people who disrespect Mr. Foster here or Josh Jacobs or any of these guys because they have a lackluster game or something, they're still professional athletes. They owe us shit. So all that being said, excuse me, has your opinion or views on fantasy football changed at all?
Yeah. I think I was when I was coming to, like, I didn't know what fantasy football was until I got in the NFL. I think that was the biggest problem.
Sure.
Was I was like, what the fuck is fantasy? Like I didn't know what it was, and like there's a $1 billion industry behind. I just didn't understand it. And I was like, yo, I don't give a fuck about your little fantasy team, bro. And I think I don't think I would do it any differently because that, like, I had to have the mindset that I was in order to be in the position that I was in. My mindset was like, yo, I'm a grinder. I earn this shit, like, and I had to just be like a dog, like, and so like that extended to my entire life, which isn't the healthiest, but that, I mean, it's a whole conversation, but like that's just where I was. And so if somebody's popping at me, like I'm popping back, like I don't give a fuck, like fuck your team, like, like I think what people didn't understand then, I think people don't understand this shit now actually, and this is why, like, I never got caught up in like when people are like, oh, you never won a super, like when they try to diss, like on the internet, when people try to diss you, like they'll say shit like, oh, you're ringless though. And I'm like, bro, you don't understand how much I do not give a fuck about winning the Super Bowl, bro. Because what I figured out real early in football, this is before I was in the league, is like, yo, there's so many variables involved in winning football games. There's so many things that are out of your control, right? There's been games in college and in the league where I've felt the best. Like I made all the right cuts, all the right moves, and I was just on that day. But I got no fucking yards because the line didn't block or the defense played better or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And so there are games where I had hella stats, but I played like shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many variables involved in the player, especially a running back having a good game or not, right? It's not all just, it's just not all like on him. And so that's when I disassociated myself with winning, because it's like I balled today, but we fucking got whooped, right? I balled today, but we got whooped. And so it's like I can't play defense. I can't block for me. I can't catch the ball. So it's like I just stay in my lane, and I like the emotions of it. I disassociated myself with. But I was very emotional while I was playing. So I cared about doing good or not. And so when people would pop off at me about their fantasy team, I used to like snap back. Um but like now I think, you know, as an older man, I understand that it's part of what makes the NFL so popular. It gets, you know, 70-year-old women have fantasy teams, or you know what I'm saying? Like like cats in high school have fantasy teams, and they look forward to it, and it has popularized the sport to be what it is today.
Right.
And so I wasn't forward thinking enough to take advantage of that, to play off of that, because like I was one of the better fantasy players that there was in my era, just because of my ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And so I could have made a killing off the field if I was just more accepting about my role in it. But at the time, my mentality just wasn't there. So like now I don't even pay attention to it enough. I do have a fantasy league with a couple of buddies that I play ball with.
Yeah.
And so I don't really watch games. I just kind of like, what was interesting. So I had a fantasy league in 2014 with my family.
Okay.
And I beat the shit out of him, but because like, so like I knew every player on every roster. I knew what defense matched up with what players was going against who. Like I just knew the nuances of the game like this. And so like I see some of the moves they make, and I'm like, that's not gonna work, or that's not gonna work, right? Because I was inundated in the game.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So but like now, like when I play, I'm a fucking fan. I'm watching fucking ESPN to see like who to sit and start, and like I have no fucking clue who some of these cats are. Like I've never seen him play, and I'm like, is he good? What kind of stats did he put up last game? I just don't know. I have no clue.
That's
So
what's
now it's
up,
like
man.
I'm totally outside of the loop on that. But like now it's just fun. Like I'll never tweet at somebody on some like, yo, what the fuck, bro? I couldn't care less. Like when I watch ball now, I just watch it for like, if there's a player that I like one of my favorite players to watch now is like Saquon Barkley. Like
Yeah.
if he has a game on, I'm gonna try to catch him because I love how he plays the game.
Yeah.
But when I watch games now, it's either for like to see somebody who I really enjoy watching, or it's a big game, like a playoff game, something like that. And I just hope people end up healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I just hope nobody gets hurt. And that's basically like when I was growing up, my favorite team was the Raiders. Like they're not my favorite team anymore, because like once you kind of see behind the curtains, like I don't really root for anybody like that anymore. I just root for players to get their money and be healthy.
Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, you got bit by the fantasy bug, man. We've got
I won last year too, though. I won. Yeah, we had a little pot, it was like $1,800 pot. I won that shit.
Bet.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So being in the league, as you were saying, you've got a lot of homies in the league and stuff that you have a ton of memories with, man. That's something that you really appreciated about being in the league. Any of them stick out to you the most? Any memories that you think about on a normal basis that's just like that just you hold on to?
Like with friends,
anything. I always ask this question. I know normally it stumps a lot of people because there's so many.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's like one particular moment, but I think it's just like the life bonds that you build with people. So it's like, you know, like you see people's kids, like when they first get into the league, and like you kind of figuring out how to be a parent, and then like you got a league now 10 years later, and you see them kids is grown now, and you say hi to them, and like the other day, my son had a baseball game, and my tire got flat, so I thought I was pissed off, but like my tire got flat, and so the dude was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna take you there, and then bring you right back," because I told him my son got a game. He's like, "Okay, bet." I ended up staying there for 2 hours, and my brother took my son to the game, and I missed the fucking game. But he's like, "Yo, guess who they're playing?" I was like, "Yo, who?" He was like, "Yo, Brian Cushing's son." And I'm like, "That's crazy, bro. Like my son is playing Brian Cushing's son in baseball." Like, that's wild, right? And so it's like shit like that. It's like it's priceless stuff. Like you can't, I don't know, you can't script shit like that. And so this is the bonds you build with people. And even Kush, one of my good friends, man. He introduced me to jujitsu, and just a fucking life-changing sport, life-changing way of life that I just love. And I haven't been able to do it because of COVID. Like they still open because Houston doesn't think that COVID is a thing.
Sure.
But they still open. But I'm gonna get back into it, here probably in the end of the year, after these vaccines continue to roll out. But it's just like we had bonded through jujitsu after football. It's just a beautiful sport, and like shit like that, man. It's just like you're really good friends that you can't break that bond. Like Jacoby Jones, like I'll drunk dial him every now and then. He'll drunk dial me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like this is my dog, man. Yeah, it's just like, oh, matter of fact, randomly, I went out to go grab a bite to eat, and I seen Andre Johnson. He was just sitting at the bar like solo by himself, and I just came up behind him and like I hugged him, and he was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "My dog." There's like we sat there and talked for like an hour, dog. It's just like that kind of shit you just can't. You bled and you sweat with these cats, like. You those memories and those bonds like can never be broken. It's like no matter what the business side of the aspect was, it's like, yo, you really you gave it up with these cats, and a huge section of chunk of my life like belonged to these people, man. And so it's like it's all love.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, Brian Cushing, man, that dude was a madman. I remember that whenever he went up and headbutted that cat with the helmet on and just started bleeding.
That dude was like, what the fuck did you do that for, bro? You know what's funny about Cush, dog? I always told him this shit, like, dog. I was like, dog, you can make so much more money off the field if you were actually yourself in interviews. Like, he's the goofiest, he's funny as fuck, bro. Like, this dude is, dog, he's so fucking funny, witty, smart, funny as hell.
Yeah.
Just like shoot back all the time. But he's in interviews like, yeah, I'm like, why are you doing that, dog? Like, be you. I was told him all the time, like, dog, you funny as hell, dog.
Yeah, he's one I've reached out to. I've reached out to somebody. That's my grind, man, is just reaching out to people. I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching back out and saying yes.
No doubt.
So I've got a couple questions from some homies of mine who, not a whole lot of people about this interview yet. It's going to be kind of a surprise for them, but a few of my buddies, they had a couple questions for you. From my boy Christopher Owens, who is he's one of the guys who really fucks with your music. And I put a lot of my buddies onto it. Like a lot of people didn't realize that was you because of the name, which could be, I was like, that could be a very good reason why he didn't go with his name, because he built up what he's got going on without knowing he was Arian Foster. Some people might be like, oh, I got to listen to it because he's a football player or whatever, but you use a different name. So it builds a lot more respect for your art. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think when you come out with music as an athlete, people already cast you off like, oh my God, here another right. I get it though, because fucking athletes suck at making music. They're fucking trash. So I get it, but like I think if somebody listens to it like with a an unbiased ear, they're like, yo, he knows what he's doing. Like music was my first love, like before football. So it's like I've been doing it like so. And I'm actually signed to toot my own horn a little bit. I'm actually signed to Mass Appeal, which is Nas's label.
Oh man, congratulations.
Yeah, no doubt, appreciate it.
That's what's up, man. How long ago?
It was a minute ago. I released the EP under them, 2019. I had already finished it, but we signed the paperwork, so I was put it out under Mass Appeal. And so I'm coming out with this project. This one's going to be released independently because they just switched labels, and so they wanted to like get all this shit situated. So I'm gonna come out with another project with them in my next project. And I don't even think labels are needed anymore, to be honest, 100% honest. They probably won't like me here saying that shit, but I think I just did it because it's like that ilk of musicianship. Like they saw me and they were like, it's kind of like a stamp of like, it's just it's not just like a
no, absolutely. I mean, you got Nas vouching for you, dude. That's huge.
One of my favorite stories is I met Nas like I'm meeting with Peter, one of the heads of Mass Appeal, and like we went to lunch with Nas and shit. And I had like a 2-hour conversation with Nas, trying to convince him that Michael Jackson was innocent.
Now I've heard, and see, and I'll be, child. It's very serious. It's a very serious thing. And of course, you should always look into it. If there's any smoke there, you definitely need to look for the fire. But that being said, before I heard that episode that you came out with, I already thought he was innocent. I figured this had everything to do with money. Everything to do with money. Because Mike, I call him Mike like I know him. Mr. Jackson.
I know Mike. Fuck that.
Yeah, man. So, I thought the same thing. I was like, man, no way. I don't think. I mean, yeah, weird, sure, eccentric,
Yeah.
whatever, but I don't think that ever happened. I think it all had to do
Yeah.
with money, especially with everything coming out afterward. I mean,
I
it's,
know a lot of people hear that shit and they're like, "Oh, you're an enabler." Whoop, whoop. Listen, bro, I spent about weeks, a month, I don't know how long, going over fucking court. I read every statement, I read every court document, I read all of that shit, dog.
yeah,
And it was like I'm talking about from every case from the 1992. Like I know this shit, like from the 1992 case with Jordan Chandler all the way to the one with Gavin Arvizo, and then I read all the other stuff with these two new dudes, which the judge actually just threw that shit out too because they stories don't match up, they don't line up, dog. They lying, and so like I'll die on that hill, dog. I understand people's reservations because it's child molestation, it's wild, and usually people like when there's smoke, there's fire, but like when you dig into that shit, it's just so apparent that it's disgusting.
yeah, it really is, man. They took advantage of a guy who was strange.
He's one of the greatest people of all time, bro. I'm just talking about human being. Was such a good human being, dog.
Yeah, everything that I've seen. I mean, I never knew him, but everything that I've seen, he was always stand up. Dude was always going back, like giving back to the community, doing everything. Like, I mean, he was just a good dude.
Great
and I mean, he made the Thriller album. So I mean,
best video of all time to this day.
100%. So the question that my boy Chris had, who is your, like, if you had to choose, who's your favorite pro ball player turned rapper besides yourself? Who's the least bad?
Yeah, I think that's a better way to phrase it. I don't know, man. I'm picky with music. I'll give anybody a shot. I'm the type of cat, like, nigga, when you see cats outside a gas station and they handing out mixtape, I'll pop that shit right in and I'll listen to it. I found great artists doing that shit. I'm just picky, and I think what happens with athletes is they have access to studio, they have access to equipment, they have access to producers, and the time it takes to harness one and hone one's craft and to really care about the penmanship and really like, they don't do that because they gave their life to something else, and so they just I'll figure it out, right? And this is what they feel, it's what they want to do. So it's not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of that's why I feel like the quality level is really low when it comes to like athletes and music. But I thought there's some good ones, like Dame Lillard. Like I think he cares about his pen, like he cares about what he writes, and so like I fuck with Dame. Honestly, the cat I used to play with, Jay Ajay, he came out with a couple songs. He came out with a couple songs that I fuck with. I fuck with him. He's a different kind of style than I am. Like he's not really like, he's like this new age rap, right? Just like kind of like I don't even know what to call it, like it's trap shit, like it's trap kind of style. Like that's more his bag, like with melodies and stuff like that. But I like it. Like I really fucking. I promise you I wouldn't say that shit if I did. If I didn't. But you know, I like his stuff.
Have you heard
Slim Pickens?
Have you heard any Waller stuff?
I haven't heard any Waller stuff.
It's nice.
Let me check it out. Check it out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely check it. What is it just his name, or what is it? What does he go?
D-Wall.
D-Wall.
Gotcha. D-Wall. And then he's talking about going back to Darren Waller. I had an interview with him, and just a great person, man. Like his story is unbelievable. And we've actually become friends. Like he's come over for dinner and stuff, and we were discussing like some of his music and everything. And man, I sent him some of your stuff, and he loves it.
That's love.
He's like, bro, man, he can spit. Like, and I was like, yeah, dude, seriously. I sent it to Payne and to Young Cash, and they were like, is this J. Cole? Like, is this J. Cole? I'm like, no, man. Do you remember the running back Arian Foster? And Young Cash is a huge football fan. He goes, what? Like, yeah,
that's love.
Like, man, they're like, is he signed to anybody? I was like, I don't know, but now we know.
Yeah, no, that's love. I appreciate the love. I'll definitely give him a spin, man. Like I said, I'm one of the people who's like, I don't cast judgment on where people come from or what they do. Sure. Like I believe art. Like one of the things that bothers me the most, dog, in today's world, when it comes to like music, is like people be like, oh, everybody raps. Oh, everybody like, oh, fucking course, bro. Like when it was like in the 50s, like everybody had a doo-wop group. Everybody had a doo-wop group.
Yeah.
When it's in the 70s, everybody had a rock band. But why is that? It's because we're all just human beings trying to express ourselves to the best of our abilities, and this is an outlet that we love and we resonate with. Like, why is it such a like? Why is it such like a you look down on? I hate that to like when people, because people be like, oh, he raps. They're not even talking about me. When they talk about people around me, be like, oh, so and so raps. Oh, of course. I'm like, why does that bother you?
Right.
Like either listen or don't. But why the fuck does that bother you, fam? Like
Right,
he's
right,
just
right.
you know how fucking gut wrenching it is to create something in your own mind, in your own space, and then release it to the public and say, shoot me. That's fucking gut wrenching, dog. And so it's like anybody who releases stuff publicly, dog, I got respect for, like,
Sure.
because it's not an easy thing to process, dog. It's like you butt naked in front of the world. That shit's not, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, you're putting yourself in a severely vulnerable state.
Yeah, especially if it's like shit that you like a lot of my music is very personal. Like a lot of my I talk about the stuff that I went through, like one of my favorite songs, which doesn't get a lot of spin, but like it's Miss Carrie. It's called Miss Carrie on my that song is about a miscarriage that me and this lady had when I was 19 years old, and it affected everything about who I was as a human being. Like it changed the trajectory of my life. And so it's like that, like shit like that, when you're vulnerable in front of people like that, I got respect for you when you do shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You're putting your heart on your sleeve. You're putting yourself out there. That's huge. Not a lot of people can do that.
100%.
Next question, and then we'll end this up, man. I know you got some stuff going on, but I appreciate all your time. From Black Hat Fantasy, what was your Wonderlic score? If you could remember that. You remember?
I didn't even know, dog. All I remember from the Wonderlicks was when I was taking a test was like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever done. This is the dumbest shit I've ever done. One of the questions was like, what was it? It was like, would you rather be a cat or a dog or something dumb like that? And I was like, man, why am I here? This is stupid. So dumb. And then people, and it would bother me when people be like, oh, he got a high Wonderlic. I'm like, that shit don't mean shit. Like, I know a bunch of dummies that got high Wonderlic scores. Like, it's just dumb.
For real. Seriously, man. We did one of the ways that I do, like in fantasy football for my leagues and stuff, I always try to make sure we do a fun way to figure out the draft order. Like this year we did the Kentucky Derby. Like if you draw a horse, and if you're wherever your horse came in, that's where you're gonna draw. We did one.
That's fire, actually. That's fire.
Like that. Yeah,
that's
man.
Fire.
And so I tried doing that. I try to make it fun each year. Like that. Did that one this year. That was fun. I did it last year in the league, and I drew the horse that had 64-1 odds that won.
Wow.
And I'm pissed that I did. Like one of the guys is like, "Oh man, you cheated. You had to have rigged it. How the fuck did I rig that?
Exactly.
If I could rig that shit, I wouldn't be working right now. I'd have put
matter of fact, I'm gonna bring that up to my league because that's actually innovative. It's dope because like we just do the random like Yahoo generator, and I'm like, like the owner of the league always happens to fall in the top 3, bro. Like, I'm skeptical.
I got you. Suspect. Yeah, they've got a number of races, man. They got another one coming up, the Preakness, I think, in Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up. That's actually fire. I like this.
Check it out, man. Check it out. But yeah, man, we did one with the Wonderlic test one year. Whoever had the highest score, and going down and stuff. And I'm looking at some of these questions. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like,
it's like a knockoff SAT, which is also stupid.
Yeah,
this is stupid.
For real, you almost hope that you had a Wonderlic test for the SAT though, because some of those questions are stupid. You're like, oh, there's no way I'm not getting the Ivy League after this shit.
100%. Yeah, it's just dumb, dog.
But yeah, man, Arian, I appreciate you being on the show, buddy. This is an awesome conversation. Had a great time with you. This is one of my favorite interviews I've done, man. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you reaching out, man. It's all love.
All right, man. You have a good day. All right.
Likewise, brother. Keep doing what you do. I hope you get all the things you want and need, brother.
I appreciate you, partner. Speaking of which, I was gonna say before you take off, one, the shameless plug, and two, you've been wanting to holler at Jim Carrey. Would you if you could get Jim Carrey on a show, like to have a conversation with him, would you do another podcast? Would you do one more?
What? Absolutely. Okay. Jim Carrey is so like that's why I did Jim Carrey. Like for those that don't know, I had a podcast, and after every episode, I would ask the guests to lobby for Jim Carrey to come on. It's like Jim Carrey to me has one of the most brilliant minds, man. So like, I would love to chop it with Jim. Jim,
I'm gonna blow you up with something that Arian can tell you. I will bother the shit out of you until I hear fuck off or okay. I promise you, he will hear about this a lot, and
that's love.
And I'm hoping that he sees this. I'm hoping that it happens because that would be phenomenal to have two of the greatest minds that I've been able to witness join together, man. And no cap, like you definitely are one of the most intellectual dudes that I've been able to talk to. It's been a fucking pleasure. It
I
really
appreciate
has.
you, brother. I appreciate
And
that.
yeah, man. So I'm gonna kind of I want to kind of bogart that little thing from you going for Jim Carrey. Put it out there for all these dudes that have yet to answer me.
Right,
They need to be on this show with me.
Okay, I got you.
Right. Go ahead, man.
I got you. Let me see. It's just athletes and rappers or just whoever? Like
Anybody really. Athletes mostly, because I mean that's kind of what I fuck with the most, but anybody you can think of, man. Anybody. All your friends, get your friends on.
yeah. All right. So to everybody out there who he's reaching out to, man, come fuck with him, man. It's good dude, humble. It's easy, it's light going, it's good conversation. Be good for the ethos, man. You know what I mean? It's what he's asking. Don't be a dick. Respond or don't respond, but don't be a dick. Hit him back, man. Come back on the show.
My man, I appreciate that. That's love, man.